Welcome to the Fuck the Generational Wealth Gap podcast. I'm your host and your go-to gal when it comes to creating a wealthy life and getting rid of all the mental baggage that comes with codependency and perfectionism. It is not an easy trip, but you better bet your ass it's worth it and you are worthy of it. You guys, today is episode 13 and I am so freaking excited to introduce you to one of my favorite people on the entire planet because I know that we've been going into this fear series. And today we are going to talk about the fear of being our mother. This is going to be so good. You guys, I am going to introduce you to the most amazing person I've ever met. Val, you are someone who is not just a speaker. You are not just a soon-to-be author. You are not just an entrepreneur. You are someone who truly wants to heal from your capacity of your own healing. And that is one of the biggest reasons of why Healing Kits, your company, came to be, as well as you really wanting to offer a different explanation on why we have things that are going on inside of our body that maybe also happened in our brain as well. So the reason that Val is on today, you guys, is because we had such an incredible conversation about the fact that we had a fear of turning into our mothers, that this is going to be such an incredible episode. Val, thank you so much for joining us, my love.
Oh, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here and share what we have to share with everyone.
You guys, this is probably going to be one of the most vulnerable episodes that we have had thus far, because we are talking about things like today of getting past what our parents say to us. The reason why entrepreneurs get stuck when we do not feel the love of our parents. How is it that you put you first when you don't know how to not be your mom? What is it that we're the most afraid of? How are we alike our parents and like our mothers? And why is it that it is literally impossible for us to accept our stories? And is there ever a way that moms can win? Now, I am not a mom, but I've had several miscarriages in my life, and I know the experience of almost being a mom. So Val and I are going to have a super vulnerable, super connected, super honest conversation about why it is that we've been stuck in our businesses or in our life from this feeling of, I do not want to be my mother. So the first question that I'm going to ask you, Val, is, did you ever feel like, no, I don't ever feel like my mom. This doesn't feel weird. I'm just my own individualist.
Yes and no. One thing I want to say about my mom is that I pretty much became my mom. And we were just talking about this with my sister, where she had a conversation with my mom. My mom is always giving and giving and giving. We spoke about this, right? My mom's been giving and had a heart attack, can't walk, and she is still giving. And I feel like that too. Well, here I am in my 50s, and I feel like, oh my goodness, I have nothing left to give because I'm always giving, giving, giving. And I feel drained, I feel empty. And I see my mom, I'm becoming my mom, because that's what she has done to her whole entire life. And I'm like, I have to stop. I have to stop now because I am exhausted. I am like so exhausted. And I see what it's done to my mom's health. That's the number one thing I'm really seeing, is the toll it took on my mom's health.
Longevity, Val. You know, one of the things that we talk about a lot, you and me, is this idea of the more and more that we reject what it is that we are not trying to be, the more and more we become it. And for me, what I noticed was the more and more that I was like, I will not become my mom. I will not become my mom. I will not become my mom. I looked up and I was like, oh my God, I am my mom. How did that happen? And it's like this concept that we reject that part of ourselves so deeply. And I want to ask you, why is it that you think that we come to reject the parts that remind us of our parents?
That's a really good question. Like, why do we reject it? Well, because, the fear of being that, like, I see my mom, finances, right? Like, oh my gosh, I'm like so related. I am my mom. And that's why the more you fear, I feel like it was just me manifesting it more. So I had to completely do a 180 and like, okay, no, I am going to take care of myself. It's okay to put yourself first, which
Mm.
my mom to this day, she still does not. Like, she's in her 70s and she has never put herself first. And I so badly want her to do that. You know, we want her to be around, but she's constantly always giving and giving. And I feel like I'm at the point where I got exhausted, I burnt out, and I'm good for nobody anymore. So what good does that do? And I have 2 kids, a grandbaby, another one on the way. I want to be there for them. So that was the biggest thing with my mom. I love who she is, but I don't want to be that. And I became that, right? And it's, I love her for it, but having this conversation on the way home from after work today, my sister and I, like, she needs to stop. She can barely walk and she's driving a car to go pick up her granddaughter from school. And literally, she's so tired, can't walk, but she can't say no. She can't. She
Oh,
can't say no. I know.
can't say no, you
And
guys.
that was me. I could never say no. Like, nope, I'm sure I'll do it. But now it's okay to say no. It's okay to put yourself first. It's okay to, because, if you don't, what good are you going to be to anybody?
And
And
let's be
so,
honest, you guys, if you're not going to put yourself first, you think someone else is going to come in and put you first? You think someone else is going to come in and say, "Oh my God, I see all that you're doing and I see how much you're giving and I just want to support you." That's the Disney dream that we kind of made
mhm.
up for ourselves, that someone else was going to come in and make it all better, or fix it, or act like we don't know what we're doing. And the biggest thing that I just heard from you, Val, is that, we have such a fear of wanting to disappoint.
Oh my God, huge, huge fear. Yes. And I give all my money away, just like my parents did. My parents don't have any money and they couldn't able to save because they just give, give, give. So seriously, I'm the same way. Like, oh, you need some money for this, some money for this, some money for this. And I'm like, oh my God, I just gave all my money away. So I literally turned into my parents, just an overgiver. And I want to, it's definitely something that I think needs to be addressed. Us overgivers end up empty, drained, broke. We don't have anything to show for. Yeah, right. Exactly.
100%. You guys, the reason Val is such a key, amazing interviewee is not just because of the honesty, it's because of her ability to acknowledge her willingness and her responsibility of it happening, right? When we can
Mhm.
acknowledge that something is going on in front of us, we're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, I saw the rock. Okay, yeah, maybe I even saw the pebble." And then you're like, "Oh, yeah, no, I saw the boulder." And here's the thing, Val, you recognize that when it comes to business, when it comes to creating something, that it is required not only to create, but to hold space for and to grow. Money ties connect directly to relationships. And when
Mhm.
you are a people pleaser or an overgiver, most of the time, we are people who give, 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 but then there's no reciprocation. Then there's exhaustion and resentment and burnout. And it happens in every relationship with money, relationship with people. I could give you the same person who's having an issue in their relationship and probably show you the same person who doesn't know how to keep a dollar. Because it
Mhm.
doesn't matter whether you keep $1 or whether you can keep $100. It's literally the
So
concept.
true. Oh, absolutely. So true. And it's just so funny as you're saying all this, more things are popping in my head of how much more I am like my mom. Like, it's hilarious. My mom has so many wonderful qualities and I love all that about her. And could she save money? Like, never, like, ever. I mean, I'd be like 14 years old. Do you have any money? I got to pay the cable guy. I'm like, oh, I'm 14 years old. Here's my check. Go pay the cable guy. You know what I mean? But then she'll go and give, somebody, $1,000 for their honeymoon trip. I'm like, oh my God, mom, like, you're asking me to pay the cable man, but you just did that. And I'm like, how is that possible? So that's like, and then, but here I am, someone will ask me to do that too. And I do it. I'm like, literally, I have people telling me, like, don't give people money anymore. Like, literally just last week. And I'm like, well, I have no more money to give. So Yeah.
Ooh, and maybe that's one of the beliefs that we received from our mothers, is that if you don't have anything to give, then no one's going to come ask you, or at least you have an excuse as to why something can't come from you rather than saying no. Because here's what I've noticed is my biggest compatibility of something that my mother does or did, which is I would rather give an excuse rather than tell you flat out, I don't want to, I don't feel like it. No. Because as women, we are trained to be people pleasing robots. Don't fret, don't create an argument, don't stress. And let's be honest, you guys, as an entrepreneur, as a serial entrepreneur, you have to say things that maybe make people uncomfortable sometimes. You have to be willing to stand for yourself. You have to be willing to say, this is my idea and this means something to me. So as a people pleaser who is genuinely trained to not create issues, the first time I ever admitted that I had a dream or an idea, someone else came to me and said, oh, you're a girl. Are you sure you really want to do that? And my immediate reaction was, ooh, pull it back. I made someone feel a little bit small. I made someone feel like they weren't good enough, because my mom always told me from when I was a little kid, you can't be upset. Dad has to be upset. If you show an emotion that distracts, then that can't be here. So that's why I always said to myself, I do not want to be my mother, because if I have not learned anything and I feel like her, then I'm going to hate that. And that energy started to literally like spout off of me, Val. And the more and more that I was like, I don't like her. I can't believe that she did this. It started to snowball into other aspects of my life. So the question I want to ask you is, Val, do you think that if we focus on a list of the things that our mothers did well, do you think that it would have a different reaction?
Oh, I think so totally, because my mom did a lot of things well. Like I was a kid who was smothered with love and nurture and attention. She had 4 kids and she did her best with the 4 kids. And she raised us for on our own, even though my mom and dad were married and he lived there, he wasn't really there. He was physically there, but for me, and depending on who you spoke to in the household, children, they might say something different. But I know for me, I actually was afraid of my dad, and people know this because my dad yelled. He yelled a lot. And right before my mom had her heart attack in 2018, they were at my house picking something up, and my dad was yelling at my mom. And I literally said, can you please stop? And my mom's like, just ignore him. Then we were inside the house, and I'm like, I can't believe you're still married to him. And this is my dad I'm talking about. And I love my dad. I don't like the way he treats my mother. And I never liked the way he's treated her. So he has those moments where he's awesome and amazing, but he just yells and yells. And that's probably like where I feel like in my relationships, I can't go there. Like I can't go with the yelling or calling somebody out. And I think I learned it from my mom because she did not with my dad. She's like, ignore him, ignore him. But I'm at the point where I don't like that to be combated. I'd rather just walk away. So recently I started thinking like, is this why I have like a lot of relationships? Because I walk away. I don't want to be combated. I don't want to argue, but I also don't want to take it. So if this isn't working out, I think I choose the route of leaving because my mom stayed. She's still there. And my dad to this day still yells and yells, but I can see now she's just like literally it doesn't phase her, but it makes me all anxious when I'm with my parents. It still makes me anxious. Like, why are you yelling at her? Right. And
Yeah,
my mom, she's like, oh, it just goes in one ear and out the other. And I'm like, does it really though,
no,
mom? Like,
it
is there a
doesn't.
part of it that penetrates you? Is there a part that makes you sick? You have so many health problems. That's stressful. Someone always telling you you can't do things right. Like literally the cable will go out and he'll be like, God damn it, Mary, the cable's out. And I'm like, Dad, it's not her fault, right? It's windy and raining outside. But all that growing up always made me anxious. Again, I knew I never wanted to be in a relationship where there was yelling like that. And she always just took it. And I finally had the guts to ask her in 2018, a few years ago, like, why? Like, why? why haven't you left? But you know what? It's working for them. I know something like that will not work for me. And that's where I don't want to be my mother in that aspect, in the relationship part. Yeah. And I definitely am not, because she's going on 50 plus years of marriage and I'm divorced twice. So there you go.
But that's the willingness, right? The
Absolutely.
ability
To
to
walk away when
know.
you know it's not working, when it's just not working. I don't want to stay. And sometimes I've stayed in some relationships too long, but I'm learning to say it's not working. It's okay to move on. It's okay, right?
It is okay to move on, you guys. And in business and in entrepreneurship, moving on when something's not working is the hardest thing. It's being willing to allow yourself to fail, because it's
Mhm.
not true failure if you allow yourself to learn something. That is not allowing yourself to fail. And the last question that I really want to go into, Val, before I mention the exit question, is how is it different in each perspective for each generation? Because I know that with my kids, there's probably going to be some things that they're going to be like, mm, Mom, I don't understand. They always say that like the kids of the next generation are the worst. But how is it that you notice that even your kids sometimes have a similar feeling or a similar expectation of like, oh, I just don't want to be the last generation, not even mom, but like, I don't want to be like them.
hmm You know what? I think with my kids, like probably one, they don't want to be single. I feel like I've been single or divorced for a long time, right? I know my daughter doesn't want to get divorced. I'm sure my son doesn't either. And I hope they stay married happily ever after. But they see moms struggle most of their life. I was divorced when my daughter was 3. Um, got remarried. That didn't last. That lasted 7 years. But I think that would be the biggest thing, would be relationships, like, stability. I think that is something that's like so important. So if I taught them that, like, like to just be, mindful of, who you choose to share your life with, and to and make good decisions. So, I feel like, some of my decisions may have been um not thought out very well, but I feel like now I'm really at the point of my life where, if I enter a relationship, this isn't just, it's just not working out, and literally I just said the other day, we hit a brick wall, so why go forward? It's true.
You guys, like all of the gems, all of the gems. And for those of you who are like, maybe my mother is not with us anymore, or maybe this is something that I'm having a harder time processing. Also, remember that it is because of my mother's pain that I'm with you right now. It is because of Val's pain that she's with us right now. Because if that wouldn't have happened the way it happened, we wouldn't be connected, right? So I do
Mhm.
also believe that it is because of the pain and because of the struggle that we are exactly where we are meant to be. So, with that being said, we are literally coming up on a close because this has already been like such an incredible interview. And you guys, Val had a off the freaking charts quote that I want to share with you guys, because I truly believe that like this is where it all starts. And she was saying that, where does it all come from, right? Like, where does all the energy and the emotion and the memories, where does it all come from? And I asked her and she said, I don't know, my childhood, probably just like everything else.
It's so true. And, as you and I continue to talk, all these memories are
Oh
coming
yeah.
up, and all these
Oh yeah.
feelings and all these emotions. And, I'm like so close to my mother. And I think the pain, I think because we're so close, the pain of how she was treated, how she doesn't have anything for herself, like nice things, like she rather buy other people nice things. I mean, that was so hard for me to always witness, um, the struggles that she went through. And but then I'm like, oh my God, I went through those same struggles. Like I became my mom of everything that I did not want, from health, from relationships to financial hardships. I'm like, oh my goodness, right? I definitely became her. And but now where I'm at now is, I I thank my mom. Like literally, I had this gratitude with my mom the other day. Actually, it was yesterday. I called her up, because my mom's like just so sweet, kind, and generous. And I'm like, I love you where you are. I'm saying, like, I'm vibrating that I love you where you are. You are just such a giver. You never hardly ever receive. And it's actually hard for my mom to receive. Let me tell you, when you give her something like Christmas or a birthday gift, she won't even open it in front of you. She's like, oh, I'll open it later. She's not a receiver. She's not used to it. She has always been a giver. So I can like, so I feel we've connected with that on a different level where I get it. That's how, was it how she was brought up, or is it what makes her feel comfortable, makes her feel good about herself. So I feel I've gotten a lot from that.
Oh my goodness. I just received a lot from that because you just
Oh,
opened something up for me that I'm like, oh my God, you know what? You're totally right. How can I see her benefits of how she's brought me into this world and me needing to learn the exact same freaking lessons that she needed to learn, and me being like, oh my God, I can't believe that I literally repeated her same lessons. Like, how did
mhm,
that even happen? And
mhm.
you're bringing us exactly to where we're meant to be, which is the close of the last question. And our exit question today, you guys, is can you meet your mother where she's at? Because for me, for a very long time, when I was asked to create a list of the things that I loved about my mother, I couldn't. And
Okay.
why is this
Oh,
important? Because you will need to do this in order to keep leveling up in your life. And when you level up in your life, you transform. In order to transform, you got to go through a little bit of a tunnel, you guys. So the last exit question again is, can you meet your mother where she's at?
God, absolutely. And I am so there because like I was saying, my mom, loving, giving, generous. I don't even complain about how she eats anymore. Like literally, after she had her heart attack, I gave up 6 weeks of my life by her bedside, did not leave the hospital. I was the one child that did not leave her for 6 weeks. And we drive home from the hospital after the 6 week is up. She goes, I'm like, are you hungry? She goes, yeah, I want Italian beef. I want French fries. I want a Coke. I'm like, wait a minute. You just had a heart attack and I gave up 6 weeks of my life to save your life. And that's what she wanted. And I was so hurt, so upset. And then I had to let it go. I had to let it all go and be like, you know what? I did that because I loved her, not because I wanted to change her. Like, this is her life. She wants an Italian beef, French fry. I'm going to let her have it. And I had to let go. I had to let go. That's just how much I love my mom, that if you're not going to care about your health, I'm going to do something about it. But then we were just fighting. I'm like, what does that do? Me telling her how to live her life. So yes, I had accepted. I had to accept her where she's at. This is her life journey. My lifestyle is different, and that's okay. Totally okay. And when you come from that perspective, accepting someone where they're at, it's just all compassion for them. It's just love, compassion, and it's cool. When she whatever she would how she lives her life, I'm totally down with it. It doesn't affect me anymore. And I think I needed that. I needed to stop wanting her to stick up to herself with my dad. Save your money. Don't give it all away, right? I had to let that go. Just had to let it go.
We
And
can't
because
control
then,
someone else.
right, because then the mirror was coming back at me like, you're doing that too. Like
Oh!
right? Like seriously, but like I recently just came to that realization that I did become my mom, and she has so many great qualities, but there are the ones that I didn't really wish I had picked up, I did as well. So I have that recognition and I'm making those changes, and it's good.
You guys, and that's how we're going to leave it, because at the end of the day, when we try and control, we get controlled, and then we look to then control, right? Because I
Mhm.
did the same thing with my mom. She tried to control me, so then I tried to control her. My dad got cancer. I was there for him, and then I was like, what do you mean you want to do this and this and this? And then I was like,
Mhm.
wow, that was exactly how he treated me. That was exactly how she treated me. So of course it's how I'm going to respond to her. So you guys, Thank you so much for taking this time. This has been an incredible episode. Please leave a comment or a title that you want us to go over. I hope you have an incredible weekend, you guys, and have an amazing, healthy, wealthy, and worthy day. We will be back with you next week. Say goodbye, Beth.
Oh, and thank you for having me. This has been so much fun and a pleasure for sharing. Thanks, everyone.
Bye,
Bye.
guys.